Good evening, and welcome to the April 9th, 2025 meeting of the Wilmington School Committee. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We are here for night 2 of candidate interviews for the interim superintendent position. This evening we have joining us Miss Maureen Binienda.
Yes.
Maureen comes to us as the current interim superintendent of the Easthampton Public Schools. She's also held the interim superintendent at the Quabog Regional School District and superintendent of the Worcester Public Schools, among others. Maureen, thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you.
So I have the pleasure of asking the first question. So if you could, take a moment to summarize your work experience and why you would like to be superintendent in Wilmington. You had the opportunity to visit our community and talk with members of our school staff, so please, if you would, include any observations or anecdotes that were particularly memorable.
Sure. So first of all, let me start. This is my 49th year in public school education. I have had the roles through these years as I worked for Head Start as a paraprofessional during summers, and then as a teacher. Then I was a special education teacher in the elementary school, a teacher in the secondary school special education, department head, assistant principal for 12 years, principal for 8, superintendent for 6 years in the Worcester Public Schools. Through all those experiences, I learned a lot about leadership. I take leadership meaning that it's really about humanity. It's, how we teach others to try the best that they can, because we're all there for one thing, which is what's best for our students. So through that leadership of teaching by getting involved, I think, and also leading by being involved, one of my greatest assets is being always present, right? So present in activities that are in schools, present in activities in the community, meeting parents in places where they might be more comfortable, such home visits, or I've gone to churches where I've actually been the guest speaker and given the homily about for example, I really wanted to increase the number of students in advanced placement in my school. And so I went to the Spanish churches, and I had an interpreter, and I spoke to the people about, your children have so many gifts, and we feel as though, we're not getting them to have all their gifts shown to them or to you. So we really want you to get your child involved in advanced placement classes. And we also, taught them, like, what do you expect from schools? Like, what does a transcript look like? What should you be asking? What kind of classes should you be asking for your children? And that made a big difference. So I think one of the biggest things is that you have to be present. People have to see you in the community, and that you have to establish a trusting relationship with the staff. One of the reasons I'm interested in here, and that doing a lot of reading on your MSBA report about the new school that you're hoping to build. My experience in Worcester is that I came in at the opening of the brand new elementary school. I completely built the South High Community School from the beginning to the end, even to the point where I had my own hard hat and my own vest given to me by the same builder that you have, Fontaine Brothers. And then the building of the new Doherty High School, everything up to the actual finishing up of the building inside, because I retired in 22. That school opened August of 24. So I know the MSBA process, been through that process now 3 different times in 3 different stages of it, but completely with the South High Community School and the Doherty High School. When I moved to Easthampton, they were in the year 2 of opening up a brand new elementary school called the Mountain View School, and that also was built by Fontaine Brothers. So I was like, wow, this is so great, because once you've establish a good working relationship with somebody, you can call and say, hey, if there's something's not right, can you help out with this? It's just great to be able to work with people you've worked with over time and had such good relationships with. So now, with that particular school, the MSB asked me to run story of a school. And so there were some, actually, your current superintendent actually came to that story of a school to learn about, many different aspects about building a school. About, like, for example, the new things that they do for security now. There's a button and walls come down. There's like so many new things, even since I helped build the South High Community School, that you're able to get in school. So we ran the story of a school. And I have established contacts with MSBA. Mary Bacheri, who's now in charge, Jack McCarthy retired, and Mary took over. We know each other personally from just the work with the MSBA. And the state treasurer, Debbie Goldberg, because she's very involved in Worcester, she also knows who I am. So I feel as though I would be an asset in the continuing of the process of the new school that you're building, because I have experience in all aspects of the school building process. The second thing is that I've settled a lot of union contracts. I know that you're having you've been working on the union contract. So in Worcester, I ended up working, when I first got there, there were 9 union contracts that needed to be settled. And we worked, of course, with our lawyer that works with doing contracts, school contracts, and myself and a team of people and 2 members of the Worcester School Committee to settle those contracts. When I got to Quabog, they had 3 contracts that had also need to be renewed. So we renewed those 3 contracts. And when I got to Easthampton, they had their contracts that needed to be renewed. So I also worked to renew those contracts. My opinion on that is that I established a really good working relationship with the president of the union and the members of the union, so that we could have a disagreement on the terms of a contract, but never act in a way that it wasn't a very respectful exchange both ways regarding, what does the school committee want and can afford, and what the union wants to afford. We did in Worcester go to mediation one of the times over some items, but that mediation worked out in an agreement. It's been difficult lately because the MTA is really pushing certain agenda items on unions, and some unions have accepted some of those agenda items. So especially like on the pay rate, right? Like what they really want or expect that you can afford. You usually can't afford what the MTA is now requesting, but work that out with the members of the union so that you come to an agreement. The third thing was today about my visits here was about communication. So I thought communication with all the leaders was really amazing today. One of the things I prided myself on when I was a principal, and I had around 1,400 kids average in my high school, was I knew every kid's name, right? Every kid's name, and knew their families, so that every day you could say, hey, how are you doing? And just make that personal contact with a kid goes a long way to making a better day for a student. And it also, if there's something that's not right, you can intervene right away because you already know that student respond to you. They didn't have the same affect that they normally have with you. Well, today, the principal, or if it was an assistant principal, as we were going in every classroom, as we were walking down the hallway, they knew every kid's name. Right? They were saying, oh, how'd you doing? Or what? They knew if they played sports. And I thought that was a great example of how important communication is for a leader to know their students and to know their students' families, and for them to get recognized, students to feel recognized by someone that's a leader in their building. So I think communication is important for a superintendent with teachers. Communication is important with parents and students, and then communication with the school committee, so that the school committee is always informed of, what's the events, what's happening, and in many cases, seek advice as where do you want to go with this? It might be about a policy, like today we were talking about the cell phone policy, and we were talking about AI and what's going to happen with policies on that. And that certainly is a communication, very important communication conversation with not only the leaders in the district, but also with the school committee as far as how do families see this, right? What do they feel like the policy should be? And let's see, the other reason is that this community, and I saw evidence of it today, has really been thoughtful in the resources that it's given teachers and the resources that it's given administration. I was particularly impressed today with the number of resources in special education classes. So, there were some classes I went in, there were, 3 or 4 students, but there was a teacher, there were 2 paras, and everybody was working and engaged in the work. So, the resources, everybody always wants more resources, right? But the resources that you have provided are resources that continue to support kids. And I think that's a major responsibility, right, of a school committee to make sure that the funding is there so that we can provide for our students the various needs that we have.
The next question. As an interim candidate, how do you view the role of the interim superintendent in stewarding activities already underway, like the strategic plan, curriculum improvement, hiring, and evaluation of staff?
Sure. So I'm just finishing up my 3rd year as an interim superintendent, and I love that job as an interim superintendent. It's a different job than the full-time superintendent because you're just there for a short period of time. So the first thing is that you have to be a fast learner. So you have to be able to look at the strategic plan of the district, look at the documents of the district, be able to look at the policies that have been set for the district and learn them. And the next thing is you have to know who are the people in the district. So who are the people in the central office? What are their roles? How can you work with them? How can they support you as a superintendent? And then leaders. Who are the leaders in the schools? And then also teachers and students. So one of the things I've done ever since I've been a principal, and I still do today, because I think it's important that people realize as much as possible that they're appreciated for the work they do. The work is hard, right? It's constant. There are things that happen that are unexpected in classrooms, and you still have to be able to maintain order and teach your class and get the instruction done at the same time, meet the social emotional needs of the students that are in your class. So little things that make a difference. So, for example, and I've been doing this now for probably over 20 years, is that I get the list of everybody's birthdays, and on your birthday, I send a personal email to every single person on the staff. And it just says, hope you have a great day today, happy birthday. That makes a big difference. It's a small thing, but it comes from me. It's not something that's automatic. I just do it every day at the beginning of my day, get the list whose birthdays it is, and send that email out. It's just a way to try to start someone's day with a smile. So that is, one of the things that as an interim superintendent that I would continue to do. The other part is the budget, because the budget is a really important part of the job of any superintendent. So for a regular superintendent or an interim is to monitor the budget with your finance advisor, and also with your principals to make sure that we're not overspending the budget, and then to work to develop the new budget for the following year.
Thank you. Dr. McCaldy.
Yep, thank you. As the new superintendent, how would you go about building relationships of trust and collaboration with faculty and staff? Secondly, how would you go about building trust with parents and the community at large? Give examples of the types of media you might use and the tone, style, or manner you try to express.
Okay. So my tone is always positive, and how I would do that with staff is to be present in the school. So I can give you 2 examples. These may or may not occur here. The first was my first month of school in Easthampton, and they had a diversity center. And in that diversity center, diverse students, instead of going to the lunchroom from 10:30 till 12:15 every day, they had the opportunity to go and take their lunch and eat in this classroom. There was a diversity person that was in there, just to talk to them. If there were any issues that were happening in the school that had anything to do with race or LGBTQ questions or anything that made them feel uncomfortable, they could come to that room. So the teacher that was in that room resigned to get another job someplace else, and we had nobody. So I ran the diversity center from August until December, until we're able to find somebody. So I would just go every day from 10:30 to 12:15, and just go in there and talk to kids. And so I got to know all the kids in the high school, and I loved that. First of all, I'm always a teacher at heart, and I love going into schools. I feel that's where my place is to be in schools, to see what's happening, to provide support for teachers. So I stayed there until December. To this day, when I walk into the school, the diversity kids see me, and they come over and they actually hug me and say, "Oh my gosh, we haven't seen you," or we have lunch with you tomorrow. So that's one example. The other example is this year, 2 days before school's going to begin, our special education life skills teacher moved to another district, and we didn't have another teacher, so I was the special ed teacher and the superintendent from September until we got somebody in November. So, and that was a life skills class. So, I feel like your job as a interim superintendent or regular superintendent is to do the work, and to do the work where it's needed. And I have vast experience, so why not do the work, right? That would have been a classroom out of compliance with a group of kids that have IEPs that are very specific as to the services that they needed. And there wasn't another person to step in. Eventually, there was a social emotional learning certified teacher, and what happened is we split the day, so I would go in the morning, she would do in the afternoon, or we would go every other day. But it was great. I think I was like a C- teacher when I first went back there, and I probably worked up to a B+, but, it was I had not been doing lessons with life skills kids for so many years, and a lot of things had changed. So it was really, I loved it, and it gave me that opportunity to get back into teaching and still be the superintendent. So I mentioned that to you because the staff was shocked that the superintendent was in there teaching the classes. And I felt like the result of that was not intentional for make them to say, wow, that's great. But the effect of it that happened was that it did establish a very trusting relationship and a feeling with the staff that they're appreciated. And the other day, a staff member stopped me and said, "You know what, this staff in these schools have never felt so appreciated in their lives." So that was a nice comment to make, is to be part of this problem solving, part of the PLC meetings. We have what they call MELT meetings, which is the middle school. They meet once a month. I go to the MELT meetings because first of all, I'm a data person. I like to look at data. I want to see improvement based on data. Not necessarily on, I do like to hear comments, of course, about how we think we're doing, but I really like to see the proof that we have made progress. And so I attend data meetings, and I also think it's really good if you know of resources that would help the district, that you bring some of those resources in. So in both Quabog and Easthampton, they now have ST Math there because of the 1-8 Foundation, which my experience with them came from Worcester. The 1-8 Foundation, ST Math, and now at Easthampton, they're also going to get that sci-fi middle school science program is going to start there, which is another huge grant that they're getting so they can have science. So Basically, I think people watch their leaders. They want to see if what they say they do. They want to know if they listen. I think principals want to know that they have the support so that they can make decisions and they don't have to feel that someone's trying to make the decisions for them. I feel very strongly that principals run their buildings. And it's my responsibility to make sure that they have the skills and support to do it.
Thank you.
Mr. Ragsdale, you're next.
So as you're aware, we are in the midst of an MSBA project, and you spoke about some of your experience with these projects in your answer to the first question. We're coming up to a really crucial period. We're going to get our budget and reimbursement at the end of June and know the cost of the project, and then we have 2.5 months running up from the beginning of July until middle of September, when we have our town meeting vote and debt exclusion vote. So can you talk specifically about your experience in that aspect of the process of building support for the approval, and what kind of activities and things you would do between those crucial months of July and September?
So I did meet some people today, actually a school committee member, that talked about the campaign. There's a group working on a campaign to do door-to-door knocking and putting door knockers and having conversations with people about the importance of the school. So I would be very happy to get involved in that also. I think you also need to have forums where people can come in and you can tell them about it, like this is why we're doing this, these are the benefits for you. And they always want to know, like, what is going to be the cost personally for each of them. And even if the cost might be a little higher than a person wants, if they know that it's going to have a good outcome. For example, research all shows that new school buildings are a positive effect on a community. They recruit people to come and move into the community because people are always asking the first question, what are the schools like? 2, it also increases the value of your property. So I think forums where we would invite people to come into the school, and also at school committee meetings, it becomes a subject that's discussed frequently. So those people that watch school committee meetings know that teachers become aware of it, because teachers know lots of people, and they're working in schools, and they can they can spread that word so that everybody becomes, everyone that works in the school should become a conduit to get that information about, we really want this school and this is why. The other idea is that I had used on, not for building our schools, but for really getting involvement, is to go to where the people are. So if there's a senior center, because the senior center people, they vote, right? They've been longtime voters, they vote. And to get that information to them so they understand. So they're not saying, well, my salary isn't going to be enough to be able to afford this, but they actually find the information out about why they still should, and what is it going to look like long-term down the road. So it's really getting the word out about the reason why you need to do it, how important it is, what the effects of it's going to be, and getting people then to believe in it and help get the campaign out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Bryson?
Sure. What has been your role in the academic success of students? Please also describe how you have supported and strengthened special education in your districts by providing some specific examples.
Can I just ask for a clarification? Is it mostly just about special ed or all academics?
Well, so starting with academic success of all students.
Okay.
And then leading into, we sort of combined our academic success question with our special ed question. So I guess a 2-part question.
Perfect. So the first part I'll take first is what have I done to promote academic excellence for all students? So one of the things, personally, one of the things I did was, as principal of the high school, is that I let advanced placement drive excellence in my school. So there was a time when, in order to take advanced placement, you had to get a in a class prior to, like if you were taking AP Bio, you had to get an A in Bio, or you had to get a teacher recommendation, or you had to get a department head. So we took all that away, and actually College Board itself has recommended that. And any student could get involved and take advanced placement as long as they agreed that they would stay for extra help and that they would try the hardest that they could. So in order to also push that so more students would get involved, we took a picture of every student with their permission that had taken AP, and we made big posters, and we posted them down every hallway in the school. And it said, I take AP. And the kids would, I'd see them in the hallway, and they're like, wow, that kid takes AP? Oh, I'm going to take AP too. So we ended up with a large number of students taking AP. The other part of it was convincing teachers that all students can take AP, because sometimes AP teachers get used to just high-level kids that are already motivated, and those are your AP kids. But I do believe in the power of the two. There's a lot of research on that says, kids that even get 2 when they go to college, those kids are passing their college classes. However, we want to stay with educational excellence with this question. So one of the things we did is I took my social studies department head, who was a very talented social studies teacher, and my favorite course was AP Human Geography. And I asked him, we asked him to teach a group of English learners that were EPL level 3. So EPL level 3 means that they are not completely proficient in English, but they would be considered emergent speakers and writers in English. And we met with the parents of those students, because the parents were working 2 jobs, and these children were cooking or taking care of the younger children, and asked the parents if they would not give them so many responsibilities so that they could take this AP class. So we taught the class 2 periods a day for those kids. So in trying to have everybody achieve educational excellence, you have to look at what is the extra that you need to provide, and what kind of support do you need to provide. So for these kids, the teacher taught the class twice a day. So those kids had the extra support. So about after a month of school, the teacher came and said, you know what, I think I bit off more than I can take. I don't think this is being successful, because they're really struggling. And we said, no, what else can we give you so you can get the support that they need and support you? So he went back, and the end of the story is that every kid got a 3 or above. Those were L's. They were 3s, right? And because of the extra support, they got a 3 or above. We publicized that through the whole school. So teachers if there were any teachers that were doubting that all kids can take AP with the right support, they no longer doubted it. We had assembly, and we brought all the kids into the assembly, and we let these kids talk about the experience they had and what did that mean for them, that they didn't believe they could do that, and now they're going to take another AP class, and they believe that they can do anything. It also brought up what the regular teachers in the school thought about what can kids do and what level of excellence can they achieve. So that, for me, was one of the things that I did, is just trying to provide, the AP is a very, high-level material, right? It's a national test, and the value in it is in the national test. The other thing is that when I was superintendent in Worcester, we got one of the first grants for early college. So we started early college. Early college is for all kids. All kids can take early college, including special education students. We worked hard on this. There were well over 800 students now taking early college, and we were the model for the state, actually. We did a lot of training, a lot of people. We partnered with Worcester State College and Quincy Community College. I'd already had dual enrollment with the other college, because Worcester's lucky. There's like over 13 colleges there, right? So we have that resource there. So in looking for bringing excellence to kids, I looked for resources that were also in the community that I could access to bring in for my students and to bring my students to. What we had found out that when kids go to college, and the research shows, most difficult year is the first year, and there's a high number of kids that don't stay in college after the first year. So how were we going to expect educational excellence and for it to continue? So we got involved in early college activities, and just to show you, kids had no idea what a college campus was going to look like. And the first time they went to register, we wanted them to know, well, what is a registrar? Like, who are the people in a college that you need to access to be able to get what you want, right? So one of the kids said to one of the leaders, where do you get your bathroom pass? Because, in schools, you have to get bathroom passes, and here we're at a college, and they're asking, where do you get your bathroom pass? Hence, it showed us that we needed to prepare them for who do you see, what is it like when you're in college, and the early college is extremely successful still. A lot of students are involved in it, and the other part we did is we, instead of having, transportation is an issue, right? Getting kids to college and back to fit into their schedule that they already have, is that we got our own teachers certified to be college professors. And so they would take English 101, English 102, and they would take Math 101 there at the high school from our own math teachers and our own English teachers. And that took care of when they got to college, then they already had those credits. Another idea about educational excellence is I had kids taking honors biology in grade 9. And I kept thinking, like, how can I get more kids earlier into AP science classes? Because, sometimes kids don't take AP early enough, or they don't take algebra in 8th grade, and then they have to take algebra in 9th grade, and then they never get to the advanced math classes. So I decided, talking to the science department head, can we try going from honors biology to AP Chem? And we tried it, and it worked. So the honors biology kids didn't go to regular Chem, they went to AP Chem. And they all passed. So that became a point of, again, looking for excellence. And another example is that our L kids, our multilingual kids, they were having a lot of difficulty passing AP English Lit or AP Lang and Composition. AP Lang Composition is across the United States one of the classes that have the lowest percentile of kids passing. That's a difficult course. And our L kids were having difficulty with it. So we decided to do AP Spanish, Lang and Lit. And when we did the AP Spanish and the kids got that, then the next year they took the English, Lang and Lit, and actually the scores were better. So they were learning in their own language first, what it meant for those standards, and then they then transferred there. So I did use AP as their standard for our kids, for us, to believe in themselves, that they could do better, and it gave them an opportunity to get into better colleges. Also, it had the effect that everybody started teaching differently. They started thinking that, these standards can be met, and it's just about how do we provide the extra support for kids. And if we look at what happened with COVID, the answer wasn't to go back to what kids missed, right? It was to accelerate what kids know by support. So accelerate the work and include what they missed into the current work that they're working. And that the acceleration, actually, academies are actually funded by DESE now for, vacations, school vacations, and after-school activities. In Easthampton, I noticed that there was only one algebra class for one group of kids taking geometry, and only one group of kids taking algebra. So in the last 2 years, we're working to look at the math curriculum in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade to see why we don't have more kids taking algebra in 8th grade, so you can take geometry in 9th grade, and then you can get into Algebra 2, and you can get into AP Calc, and you can get into stats. Otherwise, you might not get there. So it's part of the acceleration or part of looking at academic excellence is looking at your courses that you're offering, looking at your math data, for in this example, math data, looking at what standards are not being met and be very specific to teach those standards so that all kids can reach to that level of excellence. Now, the special ed question. I'm a big person that believes that we include kids, the law says, least restrictive environment, that's their right, and we should be following that. So how do we provide that for our students? Number one, we have to train our teachers, right, our regular ed teachers on what does it mean when you have a student that has special needs in your classroom. We have to make sure that, and usually guidance or special ed teachers do that they have a copy of the IEP and they have a copy of all the goals that are expected and they have a copy of the accommodations. Same thing with your 504 students, right? Teachers should have a copy of all the accommodations that need to be made for kids to be successful. Those things are basic in order for special ed kids to get into regular classroom. The second part is what's the extra support that they're gonna need. Are they gonna need a para educator in there with them? And what are the techniques we're using? If we have a student who's IEP, say they're a visual learner, are we actually providing, visual information for kids to look at up on the screen? Or is there some type of document we're giving kids? Not worksheet, right? How are we making engaging lessons using, for those kids, the modality that they need to be successful. Now, for self-contained special ed kids, how do we make sure that self-contained special ed kids, maybe students in the autism program, receive what they need is basically teaching the same curriculum and adapting it as needed for those kids in support. It might take longer, but it's still finding a way to make sure that the special ed teacher is knowledgeable of curriculum. And, a great thing I saw today here that I love is that you had a first grade teacher that now, last year they were first grade and this year they're second grade. So they had the same kids, right, 2 years in a row. Like, techniques like that are so great for regular ed kids and special ed kids, because the teacher knew them a whole year, and now the first day of school, they already, of course, kids change, grow up and get bigger during the summer, but you already have that relationship with kids. So now you can move on with the curriculum, and you already know what they need to be support, and kids are gonna make great gains by having that, and I guess they're gonna do it again next year. She's going back to the first grade, and then she'll have another second grade. We did try that in Worcester. It did work. It's not being used in all schools, but that's such a great technique that you're using here for those kids.
Mr. Golden.
Thank you. One of the strategic objectives in Wilmington's strategic plan is to create equitable and inclusive schools. What will you do to ensure all students are welcome in our district? And how do you ensure responsiveness to parent concerns that their children may not be made to feel welcome? And I know you kind of touched on this already.
Yes, and I think there was a part about parent concerns in your question too, Michael. So the first thing is I do all my own emails, right? I like to answer all my own emails. I don't have anybody else do my emails. And then I try to respond to parents in a very timely manner. In all the jobs where I've been a superintendent, there have been parents that, they are worried about their child. They sometimes don't feel that the school administration is listening to them, and now they want to bring it up to the superintendent to have a conversation. So I certainly, what I try to do first is look at what is the policy in the district. So I saw that you have a communication one on your page, how parents are, if it's about academics, this is how they're supposed to do here. It's on your website, which it's actually a great thing. I might take that and use that, because it's a very good document that you have, like telling parents, like, if this is an academic issue, this is the chain of command. So I calm parents down, talk to them, but I always want to refer back to that principal, because the principal runs the building, and the principal is going to be the one that's going to have relationships over time with parents and children. And also the teacher. So I try to refer back, talk to the principal, talk to the teacher, and then see if they can work that out. If not, then I join the next meeting and we try to come to a solution. But I think a timely response to parents is important. It's also important for parents to hear that, to know that you hear what they have to say. They might not agree with the final solution that you might come up to, but I always try to make solutions based on policy, and that's why it's important that we have policy and we follow policy and we follow process, and then in some situations, contact the district lawyer to find out exactly like what are they saying to me that we should write in a letter, or what are they saying, how we should respond to a parent if it's a case that whatever we tried didn't work, and we're still reaching back to this parent, because as I always say, we're really on the same page here. We're all working so that your child can be successful. And sometimes parents feel not listened to, that shuts them down. And so finding a way that we can start that communication again. And sometimes it might be, well, when you feel like you can talk about this, let's meet again. Sometimes it just can't be right away because they're not ready to have that conversation and listen.
Thank you.
Mr. Samaha. Excuse me.
The Wilmington Middle School has recently undergone a program review in partnership with the Association for Middle Level Education, or AMLE. We've also recently hired a permanent principal and are looking forward to seeing continued improvement and success. What has been your experience in helping to guide and shape school culture and school improvement, especially at the middle school level?
So my experience, it's usually in the middle school level that when we do the reviews, we find that that's an area that we really need to give extra attention to, right? It's a transition period, and the kids are still very young. It's not like, right, high school, they're seeing that, well, I can see an end to where I'm going. So the middle school level, first is that you read the report very carefully and make sure that the staff and the principal has shared the report with the staff also, and that there are always recommendations. So you implement the recommendations as stated and work with the principal and the staff to make sure that, what has been stated is there's a timeline for it. And then it's also interesting that we look at the strategic plan and see, like, well, how does that fit into what the strategic plan says for improvement for all kids, and then in particularly middle school. And then again, as I said, you have to look at the data, right? You look at the data. I'm not sure what you use here, but we use STAR data, and we do it 3 times a year. We do it in September, we do it again in January, and then we do it again in the spring. And so then we look and see, has there been progress? So whatever intervention we're using, we have to prove that the intervention is working. You have to do it by data.
Mr. Ragsdale.
So you touched on this a little bit in your answer to the first question. As you mentioned, Wilmington is currently negotiating with several of our bargaining units, and we fully expect that this is going to carry into the next year, that we won't settle all the contracts until we're into the next school year. So could you, in the collective bargaining context, could you give a little more detail and color as to sort of like how you've been able to bring contracts to a successful conclusion and kind of make some of those breakthroughs that kind of keep the little bit of the back and forth finally getting to an agreement? And then could you also talk a little bit about, just outside of the collective bargaining context itself, just union relationships and developing relationships with the union leadership and resolving grievances and just keeping that relationship strong?
Sure. So first, I'll take the end first. We have anchor meetings once a month. So it is actually both in all the places I've been, our lawyer, negotiations lawyer, bargaining lawyer, myself, and sometimes I bring the finance manager, because that's what it's all about, is the money. And then the union has 3 or 4 people there. And so union issues don't grow and spread and be a problem because we meet once a month. So if there's an issue, we're not just talking about negotiations, we're talking about any violation of the contract that they think is happening, or sometimes, also in Easthampton, they've never had a sick leave bank, and they're just starting one for the first time ever. It was part of the negotiation process. And so I'm on the sick leave bank committee as well as the finance manager, and then an elementary union member, and a elementary, middle, and then a high school. So we are in the process also of setting up the guidelines. What do the paperwork look like that they have to apply? How many days? Who's going to keep track of the days that they give? And that conversation happens with the union also. So the answer is that we have a positive relationship established by the anchor meetings, and then we're working with the union in order to improve things that were set in the contract, such as a sick leave bank. So we're seen as a partner, trying to set up guidelines so that their members are able to be eligible to get those days, and what are the rules surrounding it. On the other part of it, so in Worcester, the president of the union is non-teaching, and they have their own building. They call it the AW building. And so there's a lot of different events that, they might have there. They might be recognizing teachers or principals, or fundraising for somebody that is sick. And so I participate in those things, right? I go to those events because they're for the teachers that work for me, right? Or the paraprofessionals, or it could be the custodians don't belong to the they belong to a separate union, so this is a different case. Basically, keeping communication open with the union president on, anything that might come up that they're concerned about, and meeting regularly with them. So as far as negotiations go, basically, you set rules of, what are the rules that we're gonna follow for this negotiation, and you stick to it. It might be no new, after the first 3 meetings, neither party can bring any new requests into the negotiation table, right? That was one of the rules that we had. Once they had said what they wanted, we had said what we wanted, nothing can be added after that point, and we all agreed to it. So then what would happen is they would give a list of what they wanted, they would read it, and then we would break. We would go into our own room, we would discuss it ourselves, the school committee members, the school committee member, the business manager, myself, and that was it. And then we would say, was this a reasonable thing? We'd look at our budget book, find out if it was something we could afford. Then we would go back with our response, and then while we were gone, they met, and they would have their response. And then the whole thing would happen again. We'd discuss, this is what we would like, and they say, well, yes, and then they'd say, this is what we would like. So it was a lot of going back and forth, right? Asking what each one wanted, and then going back and forth and trying to settle it. And the contracts got settled that way. We did have in Worcester one time when we were stuck on a finance point, and the mayor at the time also attended as a member of the school committee, met off-site, and we actually had the president of the Carpenters Union run the conversation and the mediation between us. He didn't know either party, right? And we ended up with an agreement that night. So the bottom line is to follow the rules, make sure that you don't violate any of the rules of bargaining, and work to come to a solution that both can survive and live with. But the other point too is, though, you want teachers to know that, even though you couldn't make necessarily the large amount of money that they wanted, you want to always make sure that you get across the point that you appreciate their work, right? So it's not that we wish we could give you this money, because we really do, but we don't have it. And the other part is, sometimes we would have to say, well, if we gave you that money, we would have to, it means lay off for some of the younger people. And, we don't want to lay anybody off. So let's see if we can come to a solution. and we could argue about money, or whatever was in the negotiation that they wanted, maybe additional personal days or additional holidays. They would want off religious holidays. But the tone was always positive. You can disagree about what some of the items are, but you're not attacking the person that's on the other side. So you have to keep that respectful tone professionally and be able to, it takes a while, right? Until everybody understands that we can't give everything that they're asking for, but we can do this. And it seems to work that way. We're not in a hurry to say, okay, let's get this done immediately. We know it's going to be done over time as we have to come to.
Thank you.
Dr. McCaldy.
Sure. Thank you. As you're surely aware, many school districts are struggling with their budgets and the challenge of funding their schools properly. Wilmington has so far managed to avoid some of the extremely painful measures many districts have had to use, but we still feel the pressure on our budget. Please explain, 1, the process you use to develop your budget, 2, how you present the budget in a way that will gain support of the school committee, finance committee, and the town, and 3, what areas do you think are the highest priorities to protect in the budget?
Okay. So the first one about the budget is that you certainly work with the business manager to look at the budget, but how do you get to the numbers that you're going to request for both the school committee and the town to approve is I do what you call a budget allocation form. So it's a form that I give to department heads, also to central office people, and also to all principals. And it actually shows on one side what the FTEs they currently have, and then I ask them to prioritize what they need. We want a level service budget at the least, right? We want to be able to keep everything that we currently have. We might not be able, best case scenario, we might not be able to add anything, but the bottom line is a level service budget. And then from what principals put down there that they absolutely need. For example, this year in Easthampton, we have a level service budget. However, our budget went up 10.25%. That must sound like a lot to you, but when I explain it to you, is that with the contract, 5.25 with the raises. So that was okayed by the FinCom board, and they knew that. And it wasn't substantial raises. For teachers, it was 2.50 and 2.75. That's what the raises were, but substantial for a small place like Easthampton. And the other 5% was actually to keep level service budget, but it was the increase in electricity that happened this year, the increase in special ed out-of-district placements, and it doesn't take many of those to increase your budget because they're just expensive. Out-of-district placements are expensive. And then the third driver was special ed transportation through van pool and, because driving. And there was, the fourth one was the increase of homeless kids from 1 to 6, which was a substantial increase for us. Now, that is reimbursed to districts, but not until October of the year. So it doesn't help you close out your current year, right? And it still is an issue. So in Easthampton, we had a life skills program that was in the elementary and the middle, and now 6 kids are moving to the high school, 6 life skills kids. And obviously, we're so excited that now they're moving to the high school, so we needed to add a teacher, and we needed to add 2 paras, maybe 3 paras for that class. But besides that, there was nothing added to the budget. So when the high school principal did their allocation sheet, high school principal asked for a life skills teacher and, three paras. So that became a priority. So I get the allocation sheets back from the principals, sit down with the district office, look, the director of curriculum and the business person and the family engagement person and the special ed director. And we looked down and we established priorities. Like, we put 3 lists. This is first priority. These are things we have to do. Then the second one is the second priority, and then third is like a wish list. And sometimes you can move from the second list to the first, and then some of those wish lists get in. But it's basically, you've looked at your money, you've looked at your FTEs, you looked at the allocation sheet, what everybody wants from their school, and then you establish with the district leaders the priorities, and then you fund it that way. And then you can prove that, to the school committee, and you can also prove that to the FinCom board. And then the final, agreement in Easthampton, it's this city council that will then do the final approval.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Golden, I think you're next, but I can't turn this page.
No, that's correct.
Yep, Mr. Golden.
Thank you. The responsibilities of a superintendent are numerous and can pile up quickly in short periods of time. What do you do to make sure every part of your work gets the attention it deserves?
Oh, that's a good question. So again, you establish priorities, like, for number one, what is the priority? Safety is a big priority. So if there's something that is piling up that's a safety issue, that's the first thing that, obviously, that you would take care of to make sure that everybody's going to be safe. And you just prioritize, and, there's only so many hours in a day, so I have a calendar, and I have a notebook, and I just list the things that we have to do, assign a day and a time, and work. The other part is, I don't go home on a Friday until all those things have been done, right? So I work long hours. I like to work, and so I feel like I've accomplished something when I also check things off. So I feel accomplished with my list if I check off what I've done, and then at the end of the week I can look and say, wow, this week look what was accomplished here for this district. Now there are some cases where there might be something it might be a special ed issue, and I'll then bring in the special ed director and say, okay, can you look at this? Or, we have Title IX investigations. They take a long time to do the Title IX investigations, or the Title VI. I cannot be that because I would be the hearing officer, but I can help with arranging coverage so that the other people can do those investigations, so we can get those accomplished also.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Can you please describe Can you please tell us how you work alongside your school committees? Please include examples of your communication practices and your success and lessons learned from your past experiences.
Sure. So now I've had experience of working with 3 school committees, which has been great. They're all been very different. The Worcester one is very formal, and the other 2 less formal. In the Worcester School Committee, now that I'm also on the Worcester School Committee, it's also a different view to be on a school committee and also be a superintendent. It's actually very, very, very interesting. So on Worcester School Committee, each school committee member can submit items every single meeting that then goes to the superintendent and her leaders, and then they have to submit answers back to us. So when I was the superintendent in Worcester, there could be as many as 15 agenda items posted every 2 weeks that I had to find answers for. And, I'd have to have help in those cases because, you're trying to run the district, plus you have all this information that the school committee wanted. So my communication with them was always respectful. There was a clerk there was a unique position in Worcester where the person was the clerk of the school committee, but the assistant to the superintendent. And that position was created before I got there, and the position of that person was to be the communicate information. The school committee chair, the school committee members would contact this person if there was something that they wanted information from, and then that person would also help get the information back to the school committee. So that was a nice position to have. I had that in Worcester when I was the superintendent. When I went to Quabog, there was no clerk of the school committee, so I was the clerk of the school committee. So I was the one that had to do all the posting, so I learned a new skill. I had never done that before. So it was a small place, but I learned a lot there because I had to be the person that was also communicating with the school committee on agenda items and sending the items to me so I could post them by the time of the posting. And I had a great relationship with that school committee. Now I'm in Easthampton, and I have a great relationship. Actually, one of the people that I gave a reference to is actually the chair of the school committee, to talk to the chair about my work with the school committee, and I feel as though I could at any time really pick up the phone and call a school committee member and say, hey, this is what's happening. I really want you to know this is happening, and this is what we're going to try to do. And if you hear anything about it in the community, this is why I'm telling you. You don't have to do anything about it, but I just want to make sure you know. Because I never want the school committee to be the last person to know what's happening. Things happen in schools, and you want to make sure the school committee gets the right story, because they're going to actually get the phone calls before the superintendent does. So I feel as though it's my job to also inform the school committee, even though it might be, a personnel item, which does not fall under the authority of the school committee. If there is something that serious has happened, it's really important that the school committee is aware of it, so that they don't respond, obviously, if people call them about personnel issues, but they're aware of what's happening, and therefore they're not caught off guard. Sometimes things might go to the newspaper, and you want to make sure the school committee is well aware of it before anything gets on social media. And I think you asked me a question before about the social media part, like how would I communicate with the social media? And so basically making sure the website, through the technology director is up to date, post things that are happening in schools, the good news, and then also what's going to happen in the future. Invite them to, parents should always check the website so they can get updated on what's happening. Now, in Easthampton, we actually in Worcester and in Easthampton, teachers use Remind. I'm not sure what they use here, but they would always remind kids that their work's due, or remind parents. So in Easthampton, we're switching to Parent Square now, which is really an amazing new communication platform that also translates messages to parents in several different languages, so that we can continue to translate that. But it's interactive, and all your you put all your paperwork that parents might need to enroll kids from schools on it. It's a huge, actually, Remind is now, I think Remind bought that, or that bought Remind, one or the other. Anyway, it's the same company now. How one company buys out others, but it's a much more effective way to communicate to parents. So social media, in Easthampton, my family engagement person, we have a Facebook page. She writes everything on the Facebook page. She also monitors the community Facebook, and if she sees that there's something that's been written there about something that people think happened in the schools and maybe they didn't, she alerts me, so then we can investigate and see if that happened and get the right information out. Because it seems like bad news travels fast sometimes, and everybody wants to add their opinion to it. So what you want to do is get the right word out, make sure parents are informed, and make sure the school committee is informed too prior to that something like that happening.
Mr. Golden, a follow-up?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to say, as you understand, as a school committee member, it is great to get that communication flow from a superintendent, so that's great. What do you do when you might kind of not see eye to eye on something with some of your school committee members? When serving as a superintendent, how do you handle that conflict resolution?
So, well, that's probably as a superintendent, right? Is basically is to still be respectful to that person and still provide the information. And at some point, I might say, is there something that's not right, that I'm not doing right, that you feel like that something should be done differently, and what do you feel should be done differently, and see if we can, come to, two people talking to each other with the same goals, or what's best for the kids in the school district, should be able to come to an agreement on how we're going to have communication with each other.
Thank you.
Just a quick
Please,
follow-up. How large are the Quabog and Easthampton school committees? How
School
many-
district, school committees?
School committees, how many
Oh,
members?
the school committee, so there's 7 people in Easthampton, and there were 7,
Okay, so the same as us.
yes.
Thank you. Dr. Bryson?
Sure. I'm going to shift gears just a little bit to talk about evaluation. So how do you evaluate the effectiveness of administrators and teachers?
Oh, that's,
Part 2,
Oh,
how do
that's
you
part 1.
retain and attract effective administrators and teachers? And how do you address areas of growth?
okay, so I've been doing evaluations for well over 20 years. I use the DESE. I love the DESE evaluation tool. Everybody's been trained in it. I like the fact that the responsibility really does go on the teacher to upload evidence of what they're saying. So they make the processes, they write their goals, they sit down, the teachers sit down with their administrators. Usually I write my goals, and then I give my goals to the school committee approves it. And then from those goals, I give them to the principals, and then, my goals are usually dependent upon, sometimes it's the MCAS testing, and what were the results of that? Like, for example, did the MCAS testing show that we're not doing enough writing in the district, right? That was an example of something that happened to me last year. So we wanted to increase writing in the district, so my goal was about increasing reading in the district to show a certain percentage improvement. So it was a SMART goal, right? The SMART goals is what everybody is supposed to write. And then the principal, this is the way they're supposed to do, is sit down with the teachers, see the teachers' goals. Principals write a plan for each teacher. We use, we use an online program. I think it's called Teach Point. I'm not sure if you use Teach Point here, but anyway, it's an online program. Everything's online. And then if you're a new teacher, you're supposed to get 5 observations that are done by the administration. And you're supposed to, in January, put some documents, upload documents, evidence of your progress, student progress, and then again, the final evaluation is written by the principal. It's a very clearly defined process. It's a great process. As far as evaluation of principals, there's also a principal's rubric, and there is a teacher rubric that tells you what to look for, and also for principals, there's a principal rubric that also has look-fors, and it's a very similar process. And then for me, I observe the principals. Sometimes, I don't know how this district works, but where I am in Easthampton now, the curriculum director might do some observations of principals and see, how the work is as far as, what are we doing for the science of reading? Are we being effective with reading instruction? That could be the special ed director in Easthampton is also in charge of the nurses. So the head nurse also then does the other nurses, but the special ed director evaluates the head nurse, which is a school committee appointed position, actually, if you happen to have that ed nurse position. How do I evaluate principals? I visit schools. I spend time in schools. I spend time with principals. We have principal meetings once a month where we talk about if what's happening, what supports do they need, may do some professional development on how do you do evaluations for principals that are new and have never done the evaluation process before. Once you do it, it makes so much sense. It's a very concrete way of evaluating based on goals and based on observations and based on teacher evidence. And then, obviously, you have a conference with the teacher at the end to talk about, are they proficient? Are they someone that needs improvement? And then in some cases, is it somebody that needs to go on an improvement plan? So teachers can go on improvement plan, principals can go on there. Then you have to get a team of people together that they're going to be able to observe so that they can learn, how to be a more effective teacher. I also, I love school walkthroughs. I'm not sure if you do those here, but in Worcester, we do learning walks. They're done several different ways. Some of the ways is that we have a group of teachers that come from the specific grade levels from different schools, and they come together, and we have a checklist, and we put it on our phones, and we're just looking at one of the areas. For example, an area might be what is the teacher's wait time, for example, between the time they ask a question and they want an answer. And that team goes into a classroom, the teacher knows you're coming, and you observe a class, and you're only observing that one thing, and then you put it on the phone, and then afterwards a chat comes, and you go back. Now, you don't specifically say what the teacher's name is, because it's not about the teacher, it's taking a dipstick of what's happening in the school, and are there effective practices being used. If you go back a second time, and that hasn't changed, well, then that's time for the principal to have a conversation with the teacher as to what they need to do to improve. So I think there's nothing like walkthroughs. We do administrative walkthroughs, we do teacher walkthroughs, and when you do some of the teacher walkthroughs, we always give a glow and a grow. So a glow is something that we saw that was really good, and a grow is something that is a recommendation for improvement.
Thank you.
Yes.
David has a follow-up.
Please, Mr. Exel.
Could you also talk a little bit about what you look for in hiring staff and administrators, and what process you go through to
Yeah, I've hired a lot of
get good
administrators, a lot of
people
staff.
in the first place?
I've hired a lot of staff and a lot of administrators. And first, I look at their education, right, and to make sure that they're certified in their area. I also look for what their experience has been, if it's a new teacher or if they've been in several different places. I check into their references, but when I'm talking to them, I want to know what their passion is. Like, do you have a passion for teaching? And what's your content knowledge? How did you get it? What's your method that you're going to use? And then I always do demonstration teaching. When I hire a teacher, if I'm hiring a math teacher, I have math teachers and myself, and they have to do a demonstration lesson. And then we see if this is the person that we want to hire, a demonstration lesson. And you can't do that for an administrator, right? But so if I'm hiring a principal, I really want to check their references. I want to go to their school and spend a day at their school and see how the people in their staff react to them and how they react to the people in the staff. And do they know every child's name in that school? So I do observations when I'm going to hire principals, really check the reference out. And if I'm going to promote somebody, that, like, say you're a teacher and we have an opening, they already were my teacher, then we do classroom observations, and then I would give them that principal's job, but make sure that I give them a mentor and that spend time there helping them, because that job of a principal, you're just not instantly a great principal. You have to have training, right, and you have to have support, and make sure that they have both of those things so they can be successful.
Thank you. So I got to ask the first question, and I get to ask the last question.
Okay.
And so the last question for you is really, what questions do you have for us?
Oh, wow, that's a simple question. So I guess my question I did have for you, it was answered today. I was just wondering about the finance person that is going to retire and what the plan was, but both Andrea answered that today, that you're in a search currently for that, because that is such an important position for a school district to have. Even though superintendents, budget, there are things about budget that school business managers know, and they're spreadsheets and all of that principals and superintendents wouldn't necessarily know, right? That's why that is a key position to have a budget person. So that was my only question really, was about that very, very important position that you do have here. But I think we have an answer.
You're on that search committee. Do you want
Yeah.
to talk briefly about that?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on the search committee for that. We just started the process. And yeah, we are making sure that we're trying to get someone who's experienced, who can step into that leadership role. Because we did have such good track record over the past few years with our former, he's still here. He's back there. But,
Great today.
yeah.
I told him he had to stay.
But he's done such a good job being a really great steward of the budget, and we want to make sure we continue that with whoever that we do hire next. And also, this role isn't really just simply a controller. He also was doing a lot of other managerial responsibilities. So we want to make sure we get the person with the right leadership profile also, not just someone who can run the finances as well.
Well, from my conversation with him today, I think he's going to be a hard person to replace.
Yes.
And the other important part is him also mentoring, time to mentor somebody that does come in, because every district is so specific, right? And and every business manager has their own way of doing things. So to carry over the Excel sheet from one to the other, I've found that everybody is great at it, but they have their own way of recording it. So it's really important, especially for the business manager, to be able to mentor the one that was there before them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're lucky that Paul's going to stay through November. So hopefully there'll be a good amount of overlap for training and everything like that.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. That's basically it. Do you have any more questions for me?
We do not. That is all. Thank you very
No,
much.
But I want to thank you. I had a great day today. It is a great district. Very dedicated people that work here. And I think the biggest proof of that is that in every school, different staff members say, I just want to tell you something, I love it here. That is really something, that was the most common thing that was told me today, so I thought it's a great district, everybody's done a great job here, and I had a great day. I'm appreciative of meeting all of you too, and finding out that it's a small world, knowing a lot of people that were the same, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much. We'll take a very brief recess and then come back, or do we want to? Yeah? All right, so I would say, just very quickly, we will be back tomorrow night live for deliberations. The link to the interviews and the survey will be sent out later tonight. And I think that's it.
Survey closes.
And the survey closes at 3 p.m. So,
tomorrow.
yeah, very good. Okay, then a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Ragsdale, Mr. Golden, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.